But it's kind of a little weird the way I do it because I take a picture of the screen there. So, all right. Hello, everyone. Dr. Rob Kiltz. How are you doing today? Another awesome and amazing day. And I'm so excited. Kelly Hogan is joining us today. And we're going to talk about breaking addictions, artificial sweeteners, everything carnivore. We're going to talk about fertility and pregnancies and being pregnant while a carnivore, and how the community has changed and how you're helping share and coach and inspire people around the globe. So Kelly, welcome, and tell us a little bit about you and how you got into this. And
yeah. Well, hi, Dr. Kiltz. Thanks. So back in 2004, I was 25 years old. I'm about to turn 43 now. So 2004, we're going back 17 years. I was young. I'd only been out of college 3 years. I had been married. I got married really young. So I've been married just a couple of years. And I was still struggling with my weight, which had been a lifelong issue for me. I was kind of heavy as a kid. As a teenager, I would blow up really fast, gain weight so quickly. But I wanted so badly to be thin so I could sort of starve myself down. I would eat one little lean cuisine packet per day. That was it. And then drink a Carnation instant breakfast. And I kept gaining weight. You know, if that was all I ate, I could lose some down for prom. Every year for prom, it was like, oh my gosh, I have to quit eating. And I did. And then after prom, I would gain right back. Well, in college, I had gained about 50 pounds, not 15, 50.
wow.
Yes. And when I got married, when I was 24, I was a size 22, 24. And then I gained more after that. So that by the time I was 25 years old, I weighed 262 pounds.
Wow.
But yeah, which is heavy, but that was not even my biggest problem. The biggest problem was I kept getting these boils on my skin, and they had to be lanced and drained and packed with gauze, which if nobody's been through it, it's awful. It's awful. It's embarrassing because they were mostly on my backside and on my thighs. And I was a big woman. So I was having to, go to the doctor, bend over the doctor table, have that done, and then come home and explain to my husband why it hurt to sit down. It was horrible. Yeah. 25. I didn't have kids at that point, but my doctor said to me that day, you are inflamed. He said, I don't need a test to prove it. I'm just telling you, you're inflamed and you need to lose at least 100 pounds. Well, of course, I just cried. I was like, I know. I've tried. I don't know how to lose 100 pounds and keep it off. I knew how to lose, but then gain more, lose and gain more. And he's like, have you ever tried cutting out carbs? Well, again, this was 2004 and I was young. And I said, I've heard of carbs, but I don't even know what that is. He's like, okay. So he explained it. He was a really old guy. I think now he's 86. So I guess at that point, he really wasn't that old, but he seemed old.
My age back then.
He seemed old to me when I was 25. I thought of him as an old guy. Yeah. I probably wouldn't have now. And so he explained that meats, eggs, cheese, he was okay with dairy, and leafy greens. He said these things, and cucumbers, pickles. He said you could have as much of those as you want. He even said green beans. He's like, everything else, don't touch them. Well, I listened to his advice, but I never really liked vegetables that much in the first place.
Right.
So when I heard that list, all I really heard was ribs, wings, steak. I was like, I can have ribs? He's like, yes. I said, but what's my limit? Do I have a caloric limit? That's all I was used to, was limiting fat and calories. Child of the 80s and 90s, right? That's all we knew to do, was eat less and lower the fat. And so he said, I don't care how many calories you eat, just eat. Do it for 1 year. And as long as it's mostly meat, eggs, some dairy, and leafy greens, I don't care how much. Well, I of course thought that's ridiculous. I will gain and I almost thought I'll do this just to prove him wrong.
Right.
And when he said, I'll see you in a year, it was sort of a joke because he was seeing me all the time, for these boils.
Wow.
Yeah, I never had another one. That was it. 1 year later, I had lost 80 pounds in that year, and he was shocked. He didn't even recognize me in the waiting room. He looked at the chart. He said, what did you do? I said, I did what you said. And he just laughed and he said, no one ever listens to me. And so after that year, I really stopped doing much of the green beans. I just didn't like them. And it's not like it was making me feel better or anything. Well, I didn't think so. I kept some of it in because you have to, right, Dr. Kiltz? You just have
They
to.
say you do.
That's right.
They say.
Well, for 5 straight years, that's what I did. But I did have, during that 5 years, this is 2004 to 2009, I did also have sugar-free things like Diet Dr. Pepper.
All right.
And sugar-free Jello. Like, as long as it said carbs 0, I was like, sweet. And it worked. As in, no boils, and I lost weight. But by 2009, I was tired, exhausted of cravings. I couldn't get them to stop. For 5 years.
So you still felt the cravings through all of that. And were you feeling better overall? I mean, obviously weight and boils gone.
Yes.
How'd you feel?
Yes. I lost my cycle during that time.
Oh, really?
Partly, but yes. And I know you might be thinking, well, that's not how this story should go. I was not eating fatty meat. He didn't tell me that part. He just said eat meat. But in my mind, and he couldn't have known how ingrained this was in me because my parents really bought into the low fat craze. My dad still eats very low fat, even today. And he's heard me talk about, but it was a thing to be feared in my house growing up. So during that 5 years, I did eat meat. I did avoid carbs. I did have horrible cravings. The boils went away because I got enough plants and carbs and sugars and seed oil. I guess that was enough of a help. But at this point, I was not eating enough fat. I was not eating carbs. And so what does your body do? Your body says you cannot create. You know the story. So I did not. I lost my cycle.
So did you know about any particular diet, like Atkins? I mean, it was kind of that sounds Atkinsy at the time, or was this just kind of he said do this, and you were really inspired to get rid of the boils and get rid of the excess pounds? Was that kind of the focus?
It was almost totally based on that one conversation for 5 years.
Wow.
Now I did get an Atkins book, but it talked about climbing the carb ladder, right? After you've gotten off of it, then climbing. And every time I did, even a tiny bit, like nuts and things like that, I knew that my weight was going up because I monitored very closely. And I started checking blood sugar with finger pricks regularly every time I would eat something. I just was fascinated by this because it was 25 years of horrible dieting advice. And now some solution was happening so well. I wanted to learn more. All right, in 2009, when I had no period, but I was thin. I mean, I'd lost weight and no boils, so I knew I was onto something, but something was wrong. I decided to Google the phrase, "Can you live on meat only?" And the very first thing I saw was a group called Zeroing In on Health, and that was led by Charles Washington, Dana Spencer Shute. It was not on Facebook in 2009. This was just a big bunch of journals, a forum. And in this forum, I saw not just before and after pictures, journals with hundreds of pages. These people had already been doing it for years. Wow. And I shared my before and after pictures. They said, "You're doing great. How do you feel?" They asked like you did. I said, "I'm weary. I don't think I can keep doing this because I crave carbs so much." And they said, "You are only eating meat and you still crave carbs after 5 years." Yes. And they said, "What else are you having?" "Well, diet soda and sugar-free Jello." And they were like, "Hello." That's what I have such a addictive, I guess. That part was enough to stay flared in the back of my brain. This what Dr. Joan Iflin calls the lizard brain, right? It just wants what it wants. And that sweet taste, it's not just me. I've seen this with many people. It is enough to keep that alive and well and begging for more sweet. So for me, they said, cut out all sweet taste, even if you just give it a few days. See if it doesn't change everything. Everything. it went from 5 years of I can't keep doing this to I will never eat any other way. The cravings were just gone. That was
Wow.
it. Yeah.
Did you change the meat profile?
Yes, yes.
This and tell us a
Yes.
little bit about how you might have changed your rest of your
Yes.
life plan and about your menstrual cycles and your fertility.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So the other thing they said was when they were asking, how do you feel? And I told them pretty good, but I haven't had a period in a year and a half at that point. They were like, then you aren't healthy. We don't care how skinny you are. You aren't healthy. And I know I've heard that you really agree with that too. If you are a 30-year-old woman with no menstrual cycle, something isn't right. And they said to me, are you working out? I said, oh yes, hardcore cardio, 2 hours per day. And they said, yeah. They're like, okay, there's problem one. You need to rest. Your body thinks you're being attacked by a bear. Why else would you be running 2 hours per day?
Fight or flight.
Yes, you need to rest, let your hormones chill out. They said, stop with this chicken breast all day long. Get fatty meat. They said, if it tastes good to you, if that fat tastes good, eat more. Oh my gosh. The first bite of steak, fatty steak, I had not allowed that to myself. It was always very lean. Euphoria. And allowing myself to eat as much as I wanted. Amazing. So I just stuffed myself silly, stopped working out, and yes, I did gain a little bit of weight. Over 6 months, I gained 20 pounds. Now that was going from basically carnivore to hardcore beef, water only.
Wow.
I still gained. Some people will say you can't gain weight on beef and water only, but I'm telling you, I did it for 6 months. But that was because I had restricted and went from 2 hours of cardio to now not doing cardio. It was a big change. And then at the end of 6 months, I started to I was feeling good instantly as far as energy, sleep, hair, skin, everything was better. But then after 6 months, it's like I wasn't starving anymore. I was ravenous for 6 months. I could not get enough. But then I started to chill a little bit. It's like, wow, I kind of feel like 2 pounds of meat is enough. So I ate 2 pounds of meat per day. And my appetite was chill. My hormones were chill. The weight, the 20 pounds came back off. And by summer, that was October when I found the carnivores. That summer, I got pregnant. My cycle came back. I was pregnant. And I was already seeing a fertility doctor. And she told me that my problem was I was not ovulating. She's like, as far as we know, if you had an egg to come out of its little basket, you might get pregnant right away. She's like, you're just not putting out any eggs. So at the first time a little egg came, I was pregnant. So it really wasn't exactly a fertility thing. My eggs were apparently pretty fertile. I just wasn't releasing any because I think my body was just getting the message every single day. You are not ready for this.
Do they claim that you had PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, or just menstrual periods at the time?
Right. The doctor said it could have been induced by hypothalamus gland due to losing 100+ pounds. She said that sometimes that can cause your ovulation to stop. I don't know. All I know is after that, I stayed at the same weight, and I got pregnant 2 more times after that pretty quickly without any assistance.
But you said it was the lack of fat, because the low fat craze is still amongst our world. Even though people are eating lean chicken, lean meat, lean fish, they're missing the fat. They're not eating the fat. And that's probably the biggest problem, because even those people that eat the meat and vegetables, they're not eating fat. If you add the fat, you'll make some of those changes. So you got pregnant. Now I'm sure your doctors were really very concerned about you and your diet, and had to say you need vegetables, you need to eat more frequently. Tell us what that was like when you were pregnant, and whether you're carnivore or you did some mysterious other craziness.
Well, it was really only hard the first pregnancy. Like all moms who've been wanting a baby a long time and you're finally pregnant, like I was scared. I didn't want to do anything to hurt this little baby that I wanted so bad. I had wanted to be a mom a really long time. We'd been married for 8 years by that point.
Wow.
I
Wow.
so wanted this baby. So when your medical doctor says you need to eat the rainbow, you're like, but, and I said to her, she had been with me for years. She had seen this change in me. I said, but and I was not one to talk about my diet a lot this is my OBGYN. My regular doctor sorry, you still there? Okay. My regular doctor that first gave me the amazing advice, he had no issues, but he also wasn't seeing me regularly like my OBGYN when I was pregnant. He was once a year. And he was like, wow, congratulations kind of thing. My woman doctor, she's like, what are you eating? Well, the way I got myself healthy was eating, and I explained it. And she said, I do worry, that if you're not eating, you're going to miss out on some nutrients. And if you're not eating this and this and this, that you're going to end up having women sometimes get severe constipation. They even get hemorrhoids. She freaked me out, man. So I went to zeroing in on health. My people, we talked every single day. They were the first people to know I was pregnant other than my husband. I mean, we were tight by this point. And I told them what the doctor had said. And Charles Washington said, are you a human? Yes. And what are you growing right now? A tiny human. Yes. And if eating this way got you as a human this healthy, what on earth makes you think it would be bad for a tiny human? And that seemed to make sense. It wasn't a thorough scientific reasoning, but he did also say, there were entire people groups that ate this way and made babies. Like this is, you're not the first woman to eat a meat-based diet and have a baby. Okay, it felt that way, right? At that time.
Modern world of society of medicine, you are. Yes.
It's not I didn't know anyone else who had done this at that point. Charlene Anderson had done it. I just didn't know that, right? There were other people, but I didn't know any. And so Charles calmed me down, and he said, you could always regroup if you weren't feeling good. He said, I'm not here to tell you power through if you feel terrible, but how do you feel? I said, I feel good. I never threw up a single time during all 3 pregnancies, 0 constipation issues. And now I've got 3 kids, and it turns out he was probably right.
So you've been doing carnivore, optimal human lifestyle, a fertile lifestyle for over 10 years now.
Yes.
What would you tell those that are, I'm obviously a fertility practitioner. So many people are suffering today. And this concept of carnivore is really hard for any of us, most people, to put their head around. Yeah. How would you share, these concepts and ideas, and how do we get more support to people that this is the original optimal human lifestyle?
Honestly, I ask people, are you just wanting to lose 5 pounds, or do you have some trouble, anything you want to change in your life? Most people today, if they are over age 30, have a laundry list, right? Most people today, they know their blood sugar is high. Weight is typically a struggle. Most people can't sleep through the night. Periods are not regular. They're already having hot flashes by the time I'm about to turn 43. By my age, women talk about waking up with night sweats and hot flashes. Constant hunger and cravings for sugar. People have some problems. Oh, bowel trouble. Good heavens. To just be able to have a nice normal BM every day. Most people would love that. So if you ask folks, is there anything you would like to change? Mm-hmm. And if they have a list, say, well, if you've tried everything that's already been recommended, I know this sounds crazy, but even if you only did it for a couple of weeks, which is not enough time, we know, to really see all of the results, but most people feel something. For me, it took days. I felt something in just days. So why not give it a few days? What do you have to lose? Just to see how you respond.
Your energy is remarkable. Oh, and Did you notice a big change in your energy as you moved into this?
Yes, I used to have to nap every day. I was a really quiet kind of wallflower sort of person. I had anxiety. I would freak out about the idea of going to work because I'm a teacher and I would have to be in front of kids and interact a lot while people looked at me. And that was very overwhelming at times. The idea of coming on a YouTube live with you, Dr. Kiltz, would have probably just done me in. And now I just feel a sense of there's calm, but then also energy. I never nap. I don't have a problem with naps. In fact, if someone needs it, it can be a great little pick me up. I don't need to at this stage. Whereas before, I couldn't hardly get to my front door without going to collapse on the bed for a couple hours.
Wow.
Yeah. If you have to sleep away your whole afternoon just to wake up and eat and go back to sleep, I don't really feel like it didn't feel like that's how I was meant to be living life. I was exhausted. And I didn't even have children back then. Can you imagine?
Oh, now you have 3. So
Yeah.
you were able to conceive naturally. Your pregnancies were wonderful. You stayed carnivore throughout your pregnancy, and for this, you're still carnivore. What does your food plan, time of day look like today? And what are you eating? What are you buying? And how are you preparing it for yourself? And I guess there's
Okay.
also
That's just a few questions. All right. First of all, I did have some injectables with pregnancy 1 to kickstart because she thought that would be a combo. It happened the very first month, but I never had I never even went back to a fertility person after baby 1. So I just want to be really honest though, that with the first one, I had already started working with her. She had tried a few different pills and injectables. Nothing had helped up until that point. Then I did start carnivore and got pregnant, but it was with combination with her. And after that, I did not need anything else. And yes, I did stay totally carnivore through all of the pregnancies, except I had a few pickles in pregnancy 1 because I just had a day where I craved them. In pregnancy 3, I had a weak moment with some peanuts and I got really itchy, which was odd. Okay, other than that, yes. What does my meal plan look right now? I just always want to make sure I'm really honest. And I've always said that about pickles and peanuts. Other than that, all carnivore. Now I typically eat twice per day. I'm not usually hungry in the mornings. I get hungry at lunchtime. I'm a teacher, so I eat when I have a break, if I get a break. And then I eat again, usually with my children when they eat dinner at about 5:30 to 6. My biggest meal is normally lunch, but it's typically about a pound of meat for lunch, pound of meat for dinner. And then I'm not normally hungry again until lunch the next day.
What particular meat do you shop for, and how do you prepare it and eat it?
Yeah, I spent a lot of years eating a lot of burger patties. It was just, especially when I had babies, so easy to keep tubs and tubs of burger patties. I called them meat cookies. I would just eat meat cookies and just grab and go. So easy. And then this past spring, I got an air fryer and it changed my entire way of eating because I love that thing.
I haven't tried it yet.
Oh my gosh. I love it so much. It's easier than fast food patties. It's just, it's a drawer. You put meat in it, and I don't care what it is. You put it on 400 degrees for 7 minutes, and it's going to be delicious. It's a magical meat drawer.
All right.
Yes,
all right.
I love it. So I normally do flanking ribs in there every day or so. I love flanking ribs and short ribs. I take ground meats and just dump it in there. Katie Kelly is a carnivore influencer that taught me this. She does it in really loose bars and calls them meat bars. Delicious. I do use some seasoning. I'm not sensitive to it, but I do know that some people cannot handle any seasonings. And I can't seem to tell any difference in myself. Sometimes I don't use as much as other times. I sort of go through phases too. Currently, I am in a seasoning phase. But yeah,
What's
but
your
it's more
seasoning? What's your favorite seasoning that you're able to handle?
I love Slap Ya Mama is just a brand from Walmart that's like salt. There's only, I think, 4 ingredients in the whole thing.
Slap Ya Mama. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, it's really cheap and Walmart carries it. And I think it just has a really nice flavor.
So people talk about meat being, this carnivore is a very expensive plan.
Oh, yeah, right.
Tell us I mean, you're family, 3 children, husband and family. Tell us a little bit about what you think on the financial side of the carnivore.
Well, some people's little comeback answer is, well, it's a lot cheaper than medical bills. But in truth, I did used to have to go for this boil thing often. I go for, one yearly checkup, which is only because I choose to and insurance covers it. So I am saving some money there. I am not drinking diet sodas and sweets and treats and snacks. I can get ground meat. If you wanted to do a pound of ground meat at lunch and a pound of ground meat at dinner, you can get that. Well, at least I can here in North Carolina, quite cheap. We also have local cow pastures around here where I can get pretty decent if someone wanted only grass-fed local beef. And, if it's ground meats, it's not unreasonable. Now, if you're going to live off of only grass-finished ribeye, 2 to 3 pounds per day, it could add up. I mean, it would, especially if all 5 of us in our family ate that way. It would get expensive. But there are ways.
What about chicken and fish? What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on those as part of the carnivore plan?
Well, I think they're great, especially if you're looking at a cheaper way to do it. Chicken, I can get ground chicken around here for $2.99 a pound. Now, I would not recommend living, because I've already tried it. Don't live off of chicken alone. My gosh, especially if it's skinless, boneless. Like, you need the fat. People listening, you need the fat. It's good. You can go a day. You can certainly go a meal without a high fat meal, right? And I don't feel any different. Sometimes I'll have chicken for a meal and it's great, but ground chicken is not necessarily a low fat food. You still, in a pound of ground chicken, you're still getting, let's see, it's about 30 grams in a pound of ground chicken of fat. So you do that twice a day. That's a pretty decent amount of fat for a day.
I like to take the whole chicken and I put it in a pot in the oven. I'm sure you can do it in the air fryer. I haven't used that yet. And it collects all the grease and all the drippings, and you got to eat it all. And the organ meats, the liver, the heart, those are still things that we shouldn't be throwing out. And bone broth, it takes a lot of the fat. That it's something that I think is really, really important to do. Tell us a little bit about how you're contributing to the conversation, and maybe you mentioned I don't know what website that you initially were talking about that taught you a little bit about that, but tell us how you're being active in the carnivore world.
So the group Zeroing In on Health went from being a forum to then it was a paid webpage. Not that we had to pay to use it. The Charles Washington and the people who were running it had to pay for it, so they decided to move to Facebook. Oh, probably, gosh, I don't know how many years ago, 10 years ago. And I became one of the moderators and administrators there. So I help out in that community. And then I just try to go in at least once per day and answer questions in, I don't even care what carnivore group. I think I probably follow a lot of them. The World Carnivore Tribes and Women's Carnivore Tribes, carnivore pregnancy and breastfeeding groups. And I love answering questions there. And then it got to where back in May, my husband said, you spend a lot of time answering questions about carnivore. He knows how passionate I am. I mean, he's seen my entire life change. He's been here through it all. Yeah, he knows. So he said, why don't you do something where it could be like part of your life built in, where you go and do that for a couple of hours. So I started doing coaching groups, and we have very small groups to help break addiction and to offer community to those who are already doing it. It can be hard when you're, surrounded all day long by people eating carbs and telling you to eat the rainbow and telling you that this is going to kill you and cause cancer and heart disease. Like, people need a safe space. And I love small groups because you can really get to know them and know their background and talk it out throughout the day and be like a happy friend that also encourages you to feel good and stick with what's working.
And you mentioned you didn't have any nausea and vomiting in pregnancy. Your pregnancy did well, and so it sounds to me as if you'd really recommend this life plan for all women out there that are working to conceive for sure, but even beyond that, while they're pregnant and after.
Well, if a woman was feeling really bad and does try cutting out processed foods, sugars, especially the most toxic plants, if not all plants, and then she feels great, so often I see women who then get pregnant and they just throw it out the window because I'm pregnant. It's the time to eat, live it up, eat everything I want. I'm having a craving, and it's like, oh gosh, but this helped you feel good. And then they feel bad and have a lousy pregnancy. I see it happen. So if a woman can, and I've lived it, I know it is hard because our body, I don't know why, maybe you know why, meat aversions. It was real for me in all 3 first trimesters, all 3 pregnancies. I had meat aversions, and it was difficult. I had to change up how I ate. It couldn't be rare meats. It could not even look like a rare meat. I had to cook everything more thoroughly. I used a lot of cheese to just drown it out. Eggs, sausage, bacon. I had to go a little more soft core carnivore while I was pregnant to baby myself through. And I do encourage women, you know, if it helps to have some mustard or hot sauce so it doesn't taste quite the same. I don't know why, but my tastes were really off during first trimesters. And so it can be a challenge, and I get why women give up. But if they were feeling good and their body responded by blessing them with this baby, then I think maybe try to stick close to that if you can, because that's what your body was operating on when you got pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
It trusted you with this diet.
So where do people find you to get more information on carnivore and pregnancy and just a lifestyle that is what we're meant to be living?
So I have a YouTube channel, and I've done some videos with Dr. Ken Berry about pregnancy, and then just talking to his wife even about their baby B. And that's at my Zero Carb Life YouTube channel, my Zero Carb Life. And then I have a blog where I blogged all about pregnancy and when I actually went through all of this years ago. It's still there. I don't write it in anymore, but I didn't delete it. And that's myzerocarblife.com. And then I come on daily to give little talks on Instagram, pretty much daily, just because I love coming on there and talking. And that's where, if anybody did want to ask me questions, that's probably the best place to message me. And that's Kelly_Hogan 91.
And what about treats and rewards? How do you live with how do you take care of yourself in those moments of treats and rewards? And what do you recommend to others out there? And
I think our taste, well, I know for sure taste can really change. So what used to be a treat or a reward to me, you know, years ago would probably make me gag. It would be so sweet. And things that I would have never thought of as sweet or rewarding, like an egg pudding or a heavy cream, you know, something like that, even in small amounts, now tastes, my goodness, that's a real treat, right? It's not something I would just have every day. It is a real treat. Bacon with cream cheese rolled up. Wow, that is quite a treat. It's delightful. So I think, you know, our version of treats, we always, well, I do at least, try to encourage people to look for these little treats and endorphins in something that's not a food. You know, there's many ways to treat yourself. A massage, getting out in the sunshine, going for a ride with your favorite music, getting a coffee. There's ways other than just food, but there are also delightful little treats, even in the animal kingdom, that don't cause my brain to go crazy and for boils to break out, because that was not a treat. Those things.
Right on. And your medical costs, I'm sure, have gone way down and eliminated them. I mean, that's one of the things I think about the carnivore food optimal human life plan is just like the game changer. I personally occasionally have ice cream and French fries and dipped in mayonnaise, but it's a full fat. And, you know, for me, it's from time to time. Coffee, tea, and alcohol.
Okay.
And your opinion on those things in the carnivore realm.
Yeah. I mean, I would say if you were going to be the absolute cleanest, bestest, have water. All right. But moving on from that, if you're going to not have water, I have unsweetened tea from time to time, and I don't personally have any ill effects. I enjoy coffee myself. I still have coffee. I think it's worth trying life without it to see if you feel any better, right? Like give it a shot for a while. And I have many times. In fact, I breastfed for 5 years between the 3 kids. I mean,
Wow.
not, yeah. And I didn't have coffee. So I know what I feel like without coffee. And I know what I feel like with it. To me, there's no difference except I really enjoy my coffee. So I have it. If somebody did feel a big difference and it was worth it, for heaven's sakes, cut it out. Alcohol. I could not moderate sugar. I'm not a moderator when it comes to sugar.
All
And
right.
my husband can. He can have one little mini chocolate bar, put the bag away, and not think about it for a month. That's just him. It's not a problem. I am that way with alcohol. I can moderate alcohol. I can have one drink when I go out and then not spend the next, 2 weeks thinking, oh my gosh, how can I get another drink? I need another drink. It's just something I have no trouble taking or leaving. If someone can take or leave it and they want to go out and have a social drink, I would personally rather, for me, it can't be sweet. And that's because sweet triggers something that alcohol just doesn't trigger for me. That more. So I'll have, a bourbon and then not think about it again until the next time I go out. Now, do I think that's like best practice? Probably not. But also, it seems to be okay.
I would say steak, water, salt. Like that is our absolutely optimal human lifestyle because sweets did not exist in any significance, and certainly alcohol did not either. And so you really treat yourself like the temple, which is honorable, and how we can share these concepts with more of us, that you're worth it.
Yes.
And the hard part is, and I think the aversion to fatty meat has a lot to do with we've been brainwashed that if fatty meat is the devil. Right. And obviously you're sharing how healthy and fantastic you feel, which and you look radiant and beautiful, and I noticed you have a picture of a tiger right behind you there. And
yes.
Is that your pet, by the way?
He stays out in the back. No, it was actually a paint by number set. I painted that tiger.
Oh, that is beautiful.
Thank you so much. I'm not an artist, but a paint by number set I can handle.
Well, I say we're all artists and amazing, but I was watching an animal nature show I watch on Netflix because I love this stuff, inspiring. And lions are one of the few cats that live in a pride. And I say that we need to consider ourselves like the pride, and we are carnivores. When we didn't have meat, we found a carb that you can eat, but ultimately plants are the poison. And they make us zombies. And, it's like we've been fed this lie. And even as you said, sugar-free substitutes.
Yep.
And this is my lead-in for you to talk a little bit about addictions and how people can help kind of rid themselves of those addictions. What are your sort of favorite ways to share and that you've used for yourself?
Yeah. So typically, I know that being in a group can help, but I didn't really know why that helped so much until I just recently heard some studies. This is from Joan Ifland again, talking about our mirror neurons and how we really do like being in a tribe. We are pack animals, and it was a survival technique long ago, and it still can be. And so when we see someone that is like we want to be, we start to emulate it and mirror it. And studies show that if you have 5 interactions per day with people that you want to be like, so if you are wanting to be an unaddicted, healthy, happy, meat-eating carnivore, 5 interactions per day with people like that significantly increase your chances of making that happen. And it can be podcasts. It doesn't have to be a face-to-face. Zoom meetings with your group, Facebook conversations where you talk to other carnivores in your tribe. That tribe mentality does help. So what we do in my little tribes that meet is at the beginning of each month, I do talk about from the very basics. What is carnivore to me, and what, different stages. Some people are coming from standard American diet. So if they even started with what I did for 5 years, that would be a huge improvement, right?
Mhm.
Just mostly meat, although I do encourage them, not lean meat.
Fatty,
Mostly meat,
fatty meat,
yes,
fatty meat, fatty
fatty
meat.
meat. And if you wanted to still have some pickles or green beans on the side for a while, go ahead. See how you feel. Maybe they'll feel great. Right. And most people find that they stop craving those things if they can get the processed foods out of their system. That's the part that comes screaming from the back of their crazy lizard brain, screaming, I need that, I need that, I need that. And so if you can get that part of the brain to hush, and the real interesting thing I found out recently was when you have an addictive substance, which for me is not alcohol, but we know that for some people it is, right? Whether you're an alcoholic or if you're a sugaraholic, the very first bite or sip of whatever triggers the addictive brain shuts down your frontal lobe
Mhm.
significantly. And this frontal lobe is what is telling people what's going to happen if you eat this. Think ahead, plan ahead, think through this decision. So you think, well, I'll just have one bite and then put it away. And that seems like a good plan. And who ever does that? My husband. He is it. No one else. Most people, if you are a sugar or carb addict or an alcoholic with that first sip, you think I'll just have one sip. It never stops there, because then this lights up, all of your endorphins come flowing, your frontal lobe shuts down, decision making out the window, and then you're just going overboard. And then
We
people
get
start binging.
we get hangry, we
Yes.
get depression and anxiety and
Yes.
frustrated, and we've got to eat. I got to eat. I got to eat. I got to eat.
Yes.
And although I have my one meal at night and it's a ribeye steak every night.
Nice.
What I've learned is that a habit is critical, and eating. No other animal has a variety or rainbow or like eats 3 to 6 meals a day unless you're an
Right.
herbivore. But a
Yeah.
carnivore, which the last I looked is the symbol of strength and power of a family and that tribe, as you talked about that.
Yes.
But no one. I mean, if you think about it, the drug world. It's like drugs, illegal drugs, illicit drugs, tobacco, cigarettes, and alcohol. Those are the things that we lose our life focus over.
Yes.
When was the last time you heard of someone that's like, oh my God, they're addicted to steak and they go angry and depressed, and it doesn't exist.
Right. No, that's right. There's an actual list of 11 different indicators that something is an addiction. And food meets, I think it's 9 of them. Like, there are people who have food addiction, sugar and carbs. And one of those things is, it's doing something bad for you. People who are obese and have blood sugar issues, they know that what they're eating is not doing them a service, but they do it anyway. So they can't control it. A lack of being able to limit or reduce it. Coming back for something that you say you will not have. It goes on and on. All of the ways that we are addicts to those processed foods and sugars. And it takes, for some of us, a total elimination to shut that voice off and strengthen the frontal lobe to know, my gosh, I actually feel really good. My mind is calm. My boils are gone. I feel good. And then once they start making that decision, it's stronger and easier, and they've got a group that they can mirror, and it comes more naturally.
So the group is really critical and important because we're prideful animals, not herd animals. We're that small hunter-gatherer band, we'll say, and that's the family that we really need. And the support groups that you're talking about sounds like really important, because we all need a coach and a cheerleader. Because we all get a little bit of angry, sad, depressed. We need that friend that we can get, because the addictive things in our lives are are shared on this device so fast, and everywhere we're looking, suddenly it shows up. And you mentioned the mirror neurons, and they'll capture you faster than anything. And now we stop at the gas station or wherever we stop, we're suddenly carrying around all this stuff and recognizing that we, all humans, are the most valuable, expensive, irreplaceable temples. And when we learn these things, and your healthcare practitioner that shared with you way back when, a simple idea, and it showed rapid change and improvement. That's all. But your story is so amazing to hear. I'm hoping that more people listen and learn from you, Kelly, on My Zero Carb Life. I've seen so many people get pregnant. And I know I learned this stuff 15 years ago when I learned about Atkins and paleo and then keto. And then 10 years ago, I too did the carnivore myself because I suffered from bowel bleeding, arthritis, psoriasis, migraines, all of it gone. And I went to that one meal a day and I stopped exercising. And I was like, whoa. And now I have been a little bit on my bike the last month to kind of clear up that 20 extra COVID pounds. But I've never, ever felt better. And that's really the game changer I've seen. So do you take any supplements? What are your thoughts on supplements and those sort of things?
I think when people are first transitioning, sometimes the gut can need a little something, whether it's ox bile or HCl or something to handle all the fat. I've seen people, you can either wait it out and it can take sometimes a couple of weeks of the upset stomach or sometimes longer. There are things that can help. I did not do that. And I don't take anything, but I'm also not anti-supplement. If somebody finds that it helps them, I just don't take anything.
But you're not eating the anti-nutrients.
Correct.
And the supposed antioxidants, what I don't even believe that.
Right.
I think there's no such thing. And you're eating the optimal, original human lifestyle that it's been a game changer.
Yes. And I don't have any deficiencies, by the way. I do get blood work done regularly, annually, I should say. It's, not all the time, but annually, no issues at all. If I needed something, if my doctor said, oh gosh, you're really deficient in, I'm open to the idea of it. No.
Where are your kids and your husband on this plan? And how do you feed your family?
Yeah. So I'll have a plate at night. Well, last night, for example, my husband cooked up on the grill 8 thick cut pork chops. I had a plate with 1 big pork chop on there. My kids each had a large pork chop. Oh, they can eat some meat. But in addition to that, they will sometimes they had a sweet potato or half of a sweet potato. And they'll sometimes eat some tomato slices. And that's they've never had grains. They've never had added sugars. They eat, if they're going to have fruit, it's very limited as a treat. That's their treat. They don't like a lot of greens, but my oldest daughter, she'll sometimes have a small salad. Okay. Then my husband, he'll have the pork chop, the sweet potato, a salad, and probably usually a carb, also mac and cheese or something on the side. So it's like different levels moving up. I'm just the meat. The kids are meat, low carb veggie, and then my husband is meat.
Full of everything.
Everything, yes.
And with other friends and family members, how do they react to your insightful passion about this?
Well, when it came to the kids, the grandparents were a very tough sell when they were little. But remember, I was already eating this way long before even the first kid came along, or before she was born. So they knew how I was. They'd watched me do 5 years of this almost carnivore, then another year or so of total carnivore before I had my first kid. So they already knew how I was. It wasn't shocking, but it's also hard for grandparents to not give cookies. It's just how it is. So I had to really talk to them about different ways, show them love with a book, read to them, give them, there's other ways other than just cookies. I said I would really like for them to not be little addicts like I was. And growing up, I was a total sugar addict. Most people in my life now that I see on a regular basis have never known me any other way. It's 17 years since I lost the weight. So a
Wow.
lot of people don't know me any differently than I am now. And people like my parents, they're thrilled. They would have never been thrilled to know that I was eating only meat. In fact, they thought that was bizarre, but they love me. They're my parents. They were so troubled over how bad my health was in my 20s that to see me healthy in my 40s, they're very happy.
Any other thoughts and experiences that you want to sort of share with those that are listening and going to read this and watch this later?
Well, again, I'm not one to tell people what should you eat. But in truth, if you are having reasons why to change your diet, I would suggest write those down. Have a why readily available. Why would I change something? And then make yourself accountable to someone else. Because a lot of times if we just tell ourselves, okay, for 30 days, I'm going to try eating only animal products. If that stays in our head, that's gone at the first sight of a donut, But if you make it public, verbal, message me, message Dr. Kiltz, make it a commitment. Say, look, 30 days, this is what I'm doing. And then keep your word. Do it when it's hard because you said you would, and document how do you feel? Keep a journal. Journal if you do mess up. How did that make you feel? Is there any correlation to all of these things you've experienced symptoms with what you're eating? Remind yourself about this. If you only take one bite, then it ignites your addictive brain and it shuts down this frontal lobe so that you can stay strong and avoid, giving in on this commitment. Make it 30 days and then evaluate. How does my gut feel? How is my sleep? If you're seeing positive changes, commit to another 30 days. And then if you're like me, it'll be 12 years total carnivore and you'll be like, yep, still working. Let's keep doing this. And it's not because I am it's not because I'm striving for perfection. It's because this works and it feels great. And I have no desire now to do anything else.
Well, and it's sort of like we're little kids that we have the secret of the universe we want everyone to know about, and the all the symptoms and the diseases are gone, and diseases are secondary to a diet.
Yes,
and that's the problem. And what a life changer I know for myself. I interviewed Judy Cho, Carnivore Cure recently, and she had a really great idea, the Food and Mood Journal. So, I always say, what are you eating? How you feeling?
Yes.
But it really is important, I think, to have a coach and cheerleader to share all the things that inspire us every day. And I think for me, that's why I do my blogs. Interesting enough, I started doing my blogging 20 years ago because of anxiety and depression. And I focused more on mindfulness and positivity. And then about 5 to 10 years later, I started into the paleo, keto, and carnivore world. So I sort of, one of my website ideas at one point was called Mind, Body, Smile. Now it's just drkiltz.com, and we incorporate all of these things into that, because the critical part is that all human beings are identical 99.999%. And but there's lots of belief systems out there that we've been brainwashed with for thousands of years as domesticated herd animals, but we're really ancient tribal small packs. And when we get back to our hunting nature and recognize that, and technically I tell people that you could, I always say the one meal and add the fat may be enough. And vegans are harder. Vegetarians are more possible because of butter, eggs, and cream. Eggs. And how do you prepare your eggs, by the way? And how often do you eat eggs if you're the carnivore? Do you eat eggs much?
I do, especially these days. I didn't for years. I was just eating burger patties. But man, I love eggs so much. I love them very soft, scrambled, creamy scrambled eggs. Oh, So good.
And we are addicted to food because we're meant to be. It's like we're addicted to breathing and water and food.
We have to have it.
You have to have it. And you're either going to kill a plant or kill an animal to eat and be alive. I'm sorry. That's just ultimately you have to have eaten something that was alive to be alive.
Yes.
And the optimal human lifestyle is really the key here. Who are some of your favorite inspirational carnivore people out there, or books that you've been reading? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I do have a copy of Carnivore Cure, and it's fantastic. You've already mentioned Judy Cho. It's a great book. My inspiration came from Charles Washington, who is still out there running that group. Dana Spencer Shute, she's at Zero Carb Health, still teaching and preaching it every day. I don't know that either one of those two have ever made one penny off of talking about carnivore, by the way. They do it because it is a deep passion of theirs. They answer questions. Charles is working his butt off on finishing up another degree right now, so he is not as active. Dana, every single day. Dr. Lisa Wiedemann, she was around when I first showed up at Zeroing In on Health. She was already there. She's got almost a year, maybe 6-9 months ahead of me on it. Joe and Charlene Anderson, they are still total carnivores that I talk to privately. They are not public, but I still talk to them. Yes, they all inspire me. Amanda Radke, she's been a carnivore now about 10 years. She's also a 5th-generation cattle rancher. She's amazing. I know, she's good. She'd be a great one to talk to.
Where do you buy your meat?
Anywhere, honestly. I'm not really picky. I've got a friend from my church who has local beef, but I also will go to the grocery store. I'll eat a fast food patty. I'm really not picky. I'll buy what's on sale a lot of the time. Which
I've always said that there likely is little to no difference in any of that. We get a little kind of, no disrespect to this uppityness of it's got to be this, or this. And I would say that, in my opinion, it's not true. Let's see. Do you have most of the links on your website and or your Instagram that people can find you and get more information and connect with your blogs and things? I think so. As long as they type My Zero Carb Life onto any search engine, especially if you add the word Hogan, it should pop up pretty easily. Well, I love you playing the drums and sharing your craziness. And listen, we humans are visual. I think the visual nature of life. I was dyslexic, couldn't read as a kid, and ADHD, OCD, which I believe was all secondary to a high carb, low fat diet for years. When I changed it up, I mean, I read incessantly, but I still love to watch other people's stories. I can watch and listen to you, Ken Berry, Judy Cho, and I mean, Marie Emmerich, and Greg Emmerich, and so many others. That's why when I every 30 minutes every morning, usually about 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning, I ride my bike on my stationary. I watch a little Netflix or Steve Gundry or Ken Berry or someone. I do my light weights. It just had to. I got to move. I cannot sit still. But you have great energy. I love it. I've just been so inspired. And let's see, I think so. I've got some comments. Air fryers people love. And Bob Smith share the links. We'll share your links on our CMI Fertility, Dr. Kiltz, also on this live. We really appreciate you joining us today, Kelly. And we're going to continue to follow you and be inspired by you and all of those men and women, by the way, because I think carnivore is valuable for all of us. Sperm improved, eggs improved, ovulation improves, the soil, the uterine environment improves. And as you said, you stay that way throughout your pregnancy and beyond. And when your doctor tells you it's deadly, you'll go say, okay, thank you. But I'm going to keep on this journey. So and that very first little baby, Julia, my first child, I'm headed off now to watch her play in her final tournament. She's 10 and a half years old. She and
her team has made it to the final two. Today is the last game, win or lose, and I think they're going to win this championship. Soccer.
Well, we're going
Booyah.
to continue to follow you. Have a great time today. God
Thank you.
bless. And we'll see
God
you, Kelly.
bless. All right.
All
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care.